listening to Finding Your Genius Zone with Dirk Nevelle. It's not just a job. It's not just a paycheck. Or at least it doesn't have to be. With the help of experts across industries, Dirk helps you find your passion and career, as well as exposing the unknown parts of every vocation. Let's go deep. Let's find your genius zone right now. Here's Dirk Nevelle.
Hey everyone, this is Dirk, and I have on with me a special guest, someone that I've really looked forward to interviewing, Charlie Kinnue. I've been, since I've known him, it hasn't been long, but I'll give you a quick history into that, but I call him Coach. So my exposure to Charlie or Coach, we have lived in the Snoqualmie, North Bend area, and my son was kind of coming of age in the junior high ranks and was exposed to Charlie in the football camps and so forth. And I was always super impressed. He just had a way about it. And I was super excited and hopeful that my son would grow up through high school and have exposure to Charlie. Charlie ended up, he can tell you his story. He's no longer coaching, but he's super involved. But he's just a guy that stood out. And when I think of people in their zone of genius doing what's innate, Charlie is a guy that comes to mind. So I'm going to let Charlie talk a little bit about his career, as a teacher, also as a coach, football coach. And, he's also been doing some things in recent years as well that kind of stand out. So I'll let Coach take it from here.
Great, Dirk. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to spend a little time with you and share some of my thoughts. And it's really an honor to be able to climb on with you and chat and share with your viewers some thoughts. And, this idea of finding your zone of genius is so appropriate for today's day and age. And I've been a teacher and a coach for 35 years now. I got my first coaching job. Actually, I coached before I taught. I was an undergraduate assistant at Western Washington University in beautiful Bellingham, Washington. Injuries forced me out of the game, and I was unable to, fulfill my playing days. Like most of us ex-jocks, something kind of edges us out of the game at some point, and it was injuries for me. And thankfully, our coach at the time, Paul Hansen, came to me and asked if I would coach. And if I would consider coaching. And I was 21 years old at the time. And I was an undergraduate, and I thought, I'd love to be able to do that. I love the sport. Competition is really, really important to me and a big part of my life. What would I do without it? So I took him up on it. And for the next 3 years, I was on the coaching staff at Western Washington University as an undergraduate assistant. And so not long after that, I went and did my student teaching at Kent Ridge High School in Kent and volunteered on the football staff. And then, interestingly enough, I was able to get hired there the very next year on as a football coach and a social studies teacher. And the rest is history. I've applied for the head football job in 1992 at Mount Si High School. Growing up in Issaquah, I always liked the east side, the area, part of the geography we call the east side of Lake Washington. And I kind of wanted to get back there. I loved my time in Kent, but I wanted that challenge of being a head coach. And so I applied and was fortunate enough to win that job and start my career as a head football coach and social studies teacher at Mount Si High School. And I did that for 30 years, hard, strong, put everything into it, every ounce of energy that I had, and I loved every minute of it. It did not come without its challenges. And there were tough times along the way for sure, but I loved it. And I love the people I did it with. And I think that you'll find as we continue to talk that doing it with people and along with good people is what it's all about.
That's a great introduction. One thing I wanted to point out, I was a sports guy too. My family, football, my dad, brother, cousin, One of the things about you, Charlie, not to brag on yourself, but I remember reading the Seattle Times, and I think there was an all-state team, and I believe you were on that team, correct?
Yeah, yep.
And
yep.
what was your position? What'd you play?
In high school, I played both sides of the ball. I was a center and a linebacker.
Okay.
I always thought I was a defensive minded guy, and I liked playing linebacker.
Yeah.
But I was talented enough to play both sides of the ball, and so I played center.
Okay.
And loved both positions. Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin was the center for the Huskies in 91, 92.
Same last name?
Same, yeah, Jim Nevelle, his name.
I know that name. I didn't know the connection.
Yeah, they called him Rocco. He was about 300 pounds, 6 foot, but he looked small on that line. There were some big boys playing at that time. Well, I love the background. So when you think about real kind of getting in, like people are tuning in right now when they see teacher and coach, when you sit back and have a root beer or whatever, and you think about, do you identify more with being a teacher? And I know as a coach, you're teaching life, but do you think of yourself more as a football coach or a teacher?
I'm a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I love the classroom. I'm still in the classroom. I'm still teaching. I'm a little bit younger than I look, so I still have a few good years left. And I'm a teacher, and I teach social studies. I teach student leadership, and I teach football. They just happen to call me coach.
Got it.
Yeah.
So let's get a little bit, what this podcast really is anybody can read a job description or get a feeling for what a teacher is about or a coach or whatever. What I'm really after is some of the awarenesses and visibility that you've experienced and some of the things that have kind of come to you over the years that, if our audience is 20, 23, 24-year-old kids that are coming out of school thinking about choosing their life work, what are some of the things you might be able to share that maybe isn't so obvious about your career path that would be important for them to know before they invest time and money and resources?
It's kind of cliche-ish. It really is. But the older I get, the more and more I'm even more sold on this idea of doing what you love to do, doing what you like to do, doing what you love to do. If you enjoy, going off to work every day and you love what you're doing, you're really not going to work, and I never felt like I was going to work. I haven't gone to work in a day of my life, but now I look back at it and it's like, wow, I've strung together 35 years of teaching and coaching. And I enjoyed, driving to work every day. And it was because I enjoyed what I was doing and who I was doing it with. You want to surround yourself with really, really good people and people that you want to be with, because when you teach and coach, you're not alone. You're with people and you're doing it alongside of people and you're doing it for people, and so that's really, really important to me, and when I talk to young people, find out what your passions are, find out what you love, and, go get after it, go for that. And you might be sitting back going, there's no money in it. Well, money is important, and don't let anybody tell you it isn't important, but you can make money at the things that you love. You just have to be creative and you have to get connected with the right people. And so you really need to search out people in your field or in that area of interest and, cozy up to them, cuddle up to them and learn from them and find out how they're doing it and how you could work along with them and help them and start building those relationships in the realm that brings you joy.
So I'm glad you brought the money thing up. Let's talk about that if you don't mind for a second, because my assumption is I always try to speak in the I language, but I will say I think many people might have ideas or thoughts about making a certain type of income, and maybe they shy away from teaching and coaching because of voices in their head family, society, thinking they need to do this, have a nice house, live on the lake, whatever voices are in their head. Can you speak to like the creativity of like how you can make additional income compensation? Like I had a guest last week who is a close teacher of mine that runs pole vaulting camps, and he has some of the best in the country. And that was a dream of his. He used to be a pole vaulter himself. But like for somebody that's like, hey, I really want to coach and teach, but I really want to maintain a certain lifestyle, what would you say to that person?
I mean, I did that. I raised, we raised two kids, here in the Snoqualmie Valley. It's extremely competitive. I'm living amongst people that make a lot more money than I do. And in a sense, you're competing every day, in the economy that we have. And so money is important. But again, I found ways like your former teacher and coach there, I ran camps, that's where we kind of got exposure with each other there. Is I ran junior league camps and, physical training camps, speed and agility camps for many, many, many years. And I made some extra money in doing that. And so you find things. I mean, I don't know how many times I was standing in the middle of the field there at Mount Si High School in the middle of July. Nobody else, none of my teaching colleagues are around. Nobody else is around. And there I was. But I'm sitting there in the middle of July looking at the prettiest mountain I've ever seen in Mount Si. And I'm going, where else would I rather be? I mean, if I want to be on a beach in Hawaii, I'll do that in December, and because I'm doing these extra camps, I'll have a little extra money so I can, treat my kids to a vacation and we can go do those kinds of things. So, you have to hustle. I mean, it's not easy, but you have to hustle, and you need family members and partners in your life that will support that. And I was lucky enough to have a wife who also grew up in a teacher coach's household, and she knew the drill before we ever got married. So, I didn't have that pull. She was all in, and she knew that we had to do extra things to be able to afford and live and compete in this economy here in the Puget Sound. And so, it is hard work. It's timely, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
I love it. So. Yeah. And I remember seeing you, I'm being out, I coached as well, the junior league, and watching you out there in the middle of these kids and talking to them. And, I always think about like success, and I'm like, to me, that's success right there. Like you're impacting kids, and it's a two-way street. You're getting as much out of it as they are, if not more. One of the things that, not that my podcast is political, but one of the, I guess I'm going to ask you this since you're a teacher, is, the politics of being a teacher. And, you talked about the people you work with is crucial and it's important, like whether they're other teachers or people that are running the high school or whatever. Are there concerns or things that you would throw out to people that may, people with strong opinions, people that are maybe politically lean one way pretty heavy or not, like in the world of teaching, do you have flexibility to be who you are? Or do you feel like there's a pressure to conform to the way I don't know if I'm articulating it the right way, but I'm a very free spirit. I think I would have been really bad in the military. But, I don't know how I'd be as a teacher, especially in the last few years. I think with the pandemic, I was really challenged personally. Yeah. Is that something that you would caution kids or adults in getting into this? No,
I know exactly what you're talking about, Dirk. I teach social studies. I'm teaching a civics class right now. And, I have never been pressured in 35 years by an administrator ever, or by a department chair ever, about what I teach, how I teach. I've never been pressured by parents. And I take on controversial issues, and I teach kids about civil discourse and how to have conversations civilly and disagree and still walk out and go have lunch together. I disagree politically with some of my very best friends.
Yeah.
And we tease each other, but we love each other, and we will get in serious conversations, and then we're able to flush it and move on and enjoy each other's company. And so I am just the opposite of shying away from controversial issues and shying away from that. I have so much confidence in my ability to stay down the middle of the road,
right,
to argue both sides of an opinion and allow the student to decide. This is their classroom, not my classroom. That's the taxpayer's classroom. It's my job to help the students understand how to think, not what to think, and so I work really, really hard and take a lot of pride on being able to stand and deliver on controversial issues and talk about it and give students, the different sides of an argument and let them choose. So it's funny that you bring that up, because that's really, really important to me, because I'm a social studies teacher,
yeah,
and I want my kids to come into that classroom and not feel like, they have to be on one side of an issue or another, or they're not going to get along with the teacher. Yep. That is horrible. They've got to be able to express themselves and feel comfortable expressing themselves. And we literally have to celebrate our different ideas on things.
Yeah, I love it. The reason that I asked the question is it's an example of kind of the ways of thinking in terms of choosing a career, not like, hey, being a doctor and helping people sounds exciting, but understanding some people really want to make an impact, and some people want to be individual. They want to be unique and make their unique impact. And so I guess the question was really about, in this day and age, is it difficult for a teacher to do that? And it sounds like it's not. So I think you answered the question.
Yeah. I think you can make it difficult, but I think you need to understand what you're getting yourself into and take pride on at times being neutral and understanding that it's the taxpayer's classroom. It really is. And we have to reflect that, and it's just been really, really important that I leave my own personal opinions out of things, and allow the students to explore, and come up with their own, opinions.
I love it. So is there anything else you can think of, just oh man, I'm surprised I didn't see this coming, or I didn't expect to, I knew what teaching and coaching was like, but when I was in my 30s or my early 40s or whatever, I started to realize, is there anything you can think of, maybe one or two more things that you might want to share with somebody that's exploring this route? Maybe not to push them away, but just for them to make a really sound decision to make sure it's the right fit.
Yeah, I would say, a couple different, two things. Number one is technology, how technology has just changed the field of education. It's changed everything, as everything, no matter what profession you are in, technology has impacted you, and teaching, is no different. In fact, we have to be on the cutting edge, of technology. And I don't always reflect that cutting edge. In fact, in many cases, I learn from my students, and they actually like teaching me, and I'm very, very appreciative of that, and then, the second thing is, just the role that families play, in, their students, education, and how a teacher is so much more than just a teacher, but we're a counselor, we're a mentor, We're a pseudo parent at times. We're a coach. We're an encourager. We just wear a lot of different hats. And so you have to be prepared for that. Really teaching and coaching is a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's like being a farmer. It's like being a minister. It's like being a police officer, or a firefighter. It's really it's a lifestyle, and you need to be prepared for that and really embrace it.
So I'm just thinking out loud. As a teacher, I've seen you articulate, speak, distribute, your knowledge, right? As a coach, excuse me.
Yeah.
What about the skill set of, I know you have that, but the skill set of developing curriculum, like behind the scenes when you're sitting at home at night, trying to figure out what the heck, what am I going to talk about and what steps, like how much of that goes into your life as far as the back end stuff?
A lot. I spend a lot of time thinking and, I don't think a lot of people give me credit for that because, I'm usually pretty engaged and moving and going but I drive and think a lot. Now my kids are grown, so I have time in the evenings and I think a lot about, different ways of doing things, and how to get the kids excited about, what we're doing. I do a lot with current events, in my civics class. And so I'm always tapped into what's going on in the world and how to get this to the kids, and to pique their interest about what's going on, because so many of them don't want to know because it's bad news, and it doesn't have to be bad news if you know a little bit about what's going on and all of that. So, I do spend a lot of time on curriculum, as far as developing curriculum, get with your fellow teachers, your department chairs and the leaders in your department, and listen to how the things that they do and the techniques that they use, and beg, borrow, and steal, and that's really what I do. I listen and observe a lot of other teachers that I have a lot of respect in.
So I was just thinking, swipe and adapt. Like in my world, a lot of people like take something and change it up a little bit. When you're talking, I was just in my mind thinking, we all have opinions. We all have, have, whether it's political or whatever. But in your world, I'm guessing your incentive or your intention when you're developing curriculum isn't to like sway your students. So what's the trick in, I think sometimes that does happen with teachers where they go in with a strong opinion. So when you have a strong opinion on something, but you're trying to develop curriculum without an intention to sway, is that difficult to do?
Yeah, it can be, but you just need to pay attention to that and be really thoughtful of that,
Okay.
and to understand that, where you are. And I think you kind of need to know your community. I might be able to be a teacher at Linden, Washington, and be able to teach a little bit different than I would at Garfield High School or at Mount Si High School, So I think it's really important for you to know your community, and to come at it that way, So yeah, just an awareness. Yep. Is really, really important. And also to know that this is not your classroom. It's not, it's the kids' classroom, and you're doing them a disservice if you teach them how to think, or what to think, excuse me. You want to teach them kind of how to think and to problem solve, and those kinds of things. And if you're teaching them what to think, you're not doing it.
I love it.
That's really a driver in what guides me.
So you said, did you start coaching in 90 or teaching in 92 or just coaching?
I was the head football coach at Mount Si High School in 1992, but my first teaching job was in 1988 at Kent Ridge High School.
That's when I graduated.
Nice.
So my question is, have you seen over the years, like, I'm trying to think how to articulate this. Like, I love coaching, and I like to joke around, and I don't like to be, I like to be a little different in my approach. I want these kids to have fun and smile and not take life too serious and realize it's a game. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of kids get really stuck on, being perfect. And so my approach is always just to kind of maybe not be a dad-like stereotypical dad, just to kind of have fun with them and joke around with them. As far as reaching kids from when you started in 88 till now, like, is there a trick or two? Like, have you seen kids change in terms of how you reach these kids? Or has it been a consistent method all along? And I guess, what's the trick to getting in these kids, I don't want to say heart, but getting the trust, building the trust to allow them to like really be who they are?
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings is kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I started every off season with our initial meeting with that on the front page of our coaches packet, and I made it really, really important to my assistant coaches that this is where, we come from a place of caring and love, and that the kids really, they're not going to listen to us until they really know that we care about them as people, and so that has never changed. People are people, and if they know that you really care for them, they will run through a brick wall for you. They will. And so however you go about that, one of my other, things that I go by is, I want to be friendly with my players and I want to be friendly with my parents, not necessarily friends. They have enough friends. I have enough friends. We're not friends, but we're friendly. And so I've always wanted a real friendly atmosphere, lively atmosphere. I've always wanted to get to know my students and my players. I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know what makes them happy, what makes them sad. And those are the things that I spent a lot of time on, and as my career grew and I developed my coaching staff, I had coaches that were really, really good with X's and O's and scheme that freed me up really to do the things that I love to do. And that was working with the kids. I would bring in mental coaches, that, would give them skills to deal with issues that they deal with, and then I just spent a lot of time on getting to know our kids and spending a lot of time with them. Like I was in the weight room every day with our kids, for 30 years. I got to know them. I got to know their parents. I loved my parent community, and got along really well with them. It doesn't mean we always agreed. It doesn't mean that we didn't have issues. And the issues that I ever had with parents, really the bottom line was that we were both passionate. They were passionate about their child and I was passionate about our football program and that I needed to run it, from that standpoint, that I couldn't individualize what each parent wanted, but I had to do what was best for the program. And sometimes, you'd get those loggerheads, but ultimately, I tried to take the time to get to know the people. And it was really, really important for parents to understand that their coach came from a good spot. And so I spent a lot of time doing that.
So as a teacher, I pick up my son, we drive him to school. I know the hours of school. When I'm thinking about careers and when people are, I don't think a lot of folks think about in terms of like for me, I didn't realize like how important it was for me to wake up with my kids and go to bed with them and drive them to school, coach them. I couldn't miss a birthday. I couldn't miss a holiday. But at 23, 24, I didn't think like that. I didn't know how important that was. So the trick or the dance in this podcast is sometimes you've got to take action to experience life, to understand what the heck you like in life and what's important to you. I get that. But I also feel like some of the stuff is super obvious and should be paid attention to. So the quandary is how to expedite the awareness of who you are and what you should be doing, at an earlier stage, so you don't get locked into a career. We call them handcuffs, to maybe where you can't get out. You're old enough and it's too old to change careers, or you've already spent 10 years going to medical school, whatever. Right. My question is there any advice you can give to a younger adult, high school, people that are like freaked out? We talked about that earlier, about some of the kids are just really freaked out about what to do. Is there any advice that you might be able to alleviate some of that pressure by, maybe just lowering the bar a little bit and the expectations and, making it a little more simple for them?
I think we're always in this, we're always evolving and changing. And, I started teaching and coaching and, I was single. I didn't have a family, and then all of a sudden, boom, 6-7 years later, I'm married. I have a family. My, things change and evolve. And I think if you go into anything knowing that your personal circumstances and your professional circumstances are going to change, and you need to be flexible and you need to be a communicator and communicate through that chaos, and it's okay to change. I can remember as a young teacher going home and grading papers at night, and sitting there, and there might be a ball game on or whatever. And I had dinner and I'm sitting down in the easy chair and I've got a stack of papers on my lap. And once my kids came along, I couldn't do that. I was with them. So what does that mean? Well, I'm up early in the morning, and I kind of made a pact with myself, no more planning and grading at night, because I have my family. So I was up in the morning, and I was at school between 6 and 6:15 every morning, my whole career, because I just made sure that I was available to my family, when they needed me, and I still missed a number of things. I also included my family when we talk about it being a way of life, teaching and coaching. My teaching and coaching never took me away from my family. I included my family, my personal family with my Wildcat family. Shoot, I drug my kids along to the weight room and my little boy and little girl, they loved coming to the weight room and coming to the gym, and they were gym rats and field rats. And, so your life changes, be ready to evolve and change, your priorities are going to change, and it's a constant evolution, and that's a good thing. So.
Oh, I like it. If you could take us, 88 is when you started. Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Issaquah High School.
Oh, I'm sorry if you said that. Issaquah,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, kind of looking back, do you remember? Were there any signs of like that? I mean, things that stuck out in whether it was a parent relationship or a friend or an experience in high school or college that kind of led you in the direction? I mean, or was it like, hey, I have no idea, let's just pick this road and go down this road? Or did you have a feeling at an early age of what you might do?
I teaching and coaching is kind of a family profession, a family occupation. My dad's brother was a professor at the collegiate level. My mom had 2 brothers that were teachers. I have numerous aunts and cousins that have gone into that field. So one of the things that I learned early on is we would have big family gatherings, and I would come across these people, and the happiest people in the room were the teachers. They were just always in a good mood and always happy, and I picked up on that I don't think I sat there and noticed that. I noticed that they were happy, but I didn't equate it with them and their occupation until later on, and, in particular, my Uncle Boyd, he was the happiest person in the room, and he taught and coached for a very, very long time. And, he was a guy that I looked to, and watched very, very closely. And I followed him, and so it was kind of a family occupation, and then of course I like sports. I was always, I think I was always kind of considered a leader on the teams that I would be a part of. I think coaches felt comfortable coming to me. I can remember one year, it would have been my sophomore year in high school. And I was lucky enough to wrangle myself onto the varsity team. And we were getting ready to play Sammamish High School. And, in the 70s and 80s, Sammamish, boy, they were darn good. And, Newport and Sammamish and Interlake were the best. They really were. They were really, really good when I was going through in the late 70s and early 80s. And I was a sophomore, and we had to play against Sammamish High School. And we had a scout pick up some really, really important keys. And our senior linebacker got hurt. And so as a sophomore, we went with a no huddle defense. And I had to call out the defensive scheme depending on how the offense was lined up. And that was a lot on the plate of a 15, 16-year-old who was just trying to survive against Rob Rask and Dave Sargent and these guys that were just absolute Kinko studs.
Oh yeah.
And so I learned early on right there that, coaches put a lot of trust in me, and I must have something, I used to think. And so
I love that story. As a 15-year-old, that is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So was that the era, like Tom Flick? Was he playing at Interlake?
Tom's a little bit older.
Okay.
I was Steve Pallure.
Yep.
He's a year older than I was.
Yep.
But I played against Steve Pallure and his Interlake teams, a team for our Kinko championship in 1979, I guess it would have been.
Yeah.
So,
I remember, I think Interlake was where I was going to go. I grew up in Bridle Trails. I think, was it Jacques Robinson, or was he a running back for Interlake? I thought something around that. Anyway, so yeah, those guys were good.
Yeah.
So let me, while we wind this thing down, looking back, like I always ask this question to my guests, is there anything you would have done, knowing what you know now? I think I know the answer to this, but anything you would have done different, knowing what you know?
I don't think so. I would just encourage anybody that's interested in teaching and coaching to find ways to teach and coach, and it can be in any form or fashion, but get with people, start building relationships, figure out where you want to be, where you want to live, all those kinds of things, and get into the community, be community minded, and understand that to do it right, you really need to make it a way of life, and live in the community that you teach in if you can afford it, live in the community that you work in, attend activities. I can't count how many school plays I've been to at Mount Si High School. I can't count how many band concerts I've been to, because I enjoy it. And I love watching students in other realms outside of my classroom. And I love making that connection with those kids coming in the next day and say, wow, I loved what you did in the play last night. You were there? Yeah, I was there. That's what I do. That's what's fun. And so, I made it a way of life, and I enjoyed and have enjoyed every minute of it, and it's been hard. It is hard work, but it's enjoyable work, and so, yeah, I feel like I've gone about it the right way. My coaching career ended. I wasn't pushed out. I wasn't asked to leave. I didn't leave because we lacked talent. I didn't leave because I hated it. I wanted to leave when I still loved it. And I did. It was just time. It was just time. COVID was a really tough last couple of years. We didn't really know how to deal with it. Nobody did. Our educational leaders didn't know how to deal with it, and either did the coaches and everybody in between, and so we were kind of sleepwalking through it, and it was really, really difficult. But I knew when it was time. And so then all of a sudden a job opens up at our big picture school here in the Snoqualmie Valley called Two Rivers. And I jumped all over it, and it's been a great change for me. And I'm hoping the students are getting used to me. It's taking a little bit of time, but we're growing together, and I love who I work for and who I work with at Two Rivers. They're great people, and I'm in a good spot, and really still excited about going to work every day. I'm 60 years old. This is my 35th year teaching, and I'm pretty excited. I really am.
That's awesome. One question I have is, let's just take, you can't teach, you can't coach. Is there a dream job, like maybe where you don't tell, no one knows about you, like something that like for me, I wish I could write music and perform and, write music for movies is something I think I would love to do. Is there something, a dream job that you have that you would, if you couldn't teach and coach, that you would want to do?
Well, I love politics. Mm-hmm. I really do. And I think I would love to try my hand at being a politician. I know that comes, that word politician comes with, a negative connotation for many, not for me, because I understand politics. And I honestly believe that most politicians, like everybody else, come from a good spot and are in it for the right reasons. So, I would probably say I would like to give my shot at being a politician and trying to make life better for people.
Well, I think you would have no problem getting the vote in Snoqualmie Valley. Coach, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed it. And, I wish, no big deal, but I wish my son could have experienced you in high school. But I know that you're still around, and I know that you always say hi to him, and he feels pretty good about that. And it's an honor to meet you. And thank you so much for coming on.
Well, hey, Dirk, this is a beginning, not an ending. And I'm always going to be there. I'm kind of the grandfather, of the Wildcat football program. I care deeply about the program and where it's headed. And I think it's the brightest days are ahead. And I do see your boy a couple times a week, and he's always locked in, and he always looks me in the eye, and he's always very friendly. And those are, that's a sign of a good parent. So nice job.
Yeah. He's got a good heart. He's a sweet boy. Well, thanks, Coach. I know I'll bump into you here soon. And thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Dirk. Appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.
All right.
All right.